Neuromarketing in Mexico. Role: private commerce. Problem: use of new marketing strategies to identify a consumer profile. Scientific and technological tool: neuromarketing. City: Mexico City. Contextualization: Mexico is the capital of the country and most important economical and political center. Its territorial extension is 1,500 square kilometers. Population: 8,918,653 inhabitants. The national GDP is 16.5%. The main activity is trade and commerce. The climate: the average annual temperature goes from 12 degrees to 16 degrees. The temperature is rarely below the 3 degrees or above the 30 degrees. Commerce in Mexico. The Investment Summit in Mexico takes place in Mexico City, covering the opportunities and challenges of development and investment through private capital, entrepreneurial capital, infrastructure, real estate, agriculture, tourism, energy, and natural resources. In the majority, the commercial establishments are dedicated to sell 49% to food, beverages, and tobacco, 13% to stationery for recreation and others, and 12% to textile products, clothing accessories, and footwear. These three activities account for the 74% of establishments. In the trade sector, 6,134,758 people work, more than the 30% of the country's employed. Mexico is the 10th largest export economy in the world and the 21st most complex economy according to the Economic Complexity Index. The Mexican consumer. The consumption needs of each generation change over time. Certainly, the behavior of today's consumer is not the same as how it was 20 years ago, as they now find a greater variety of consumer profiles. On May 3, 2016, Forbes Mexico named the millennials the new consumers, describing them as the future generation of consumers with new characteristics, needs, and demands, which should be known because of the repercussions and transformations that will demand to the brands. The millennials, or Generation Y, defines those born between 1980 and 1995, people between 22 and 30 years old who became adults at the turn of the millennium. Currently, in Latin America, just over 30% of the population is millennial, and according to Deloitte's prediction, in 2025 it will represent 75% of the world's labor force. Marketing and neuromarketing. Marketing lands the consumer needs and creates strategies to improve the sale of a product or service. Currently, marketing has had to adapt to the new generations. This implies updating, evolving, and modifying strategies to know more about the consumer's behavior, needs, taste, preferences, and thus be able to persuade him and make the consumer feel it identify so they can prefer buy the brand, product, or service. Neuromarketing is the application of neuroscience techniques to marketing. Its objective is to know and understand the levels of attention that people show to different stimuli with the intention of being able to predict consumer behavior. Problem: the millennial generation has been classified as unique, since the members completely broke with attitudes, beliefs, behavior of other generations, creating specific characteristics that identify them. As mentioned by Forbes Mexico in its article, is a generation that is necessary to know because of the repercussions and transformations that will demand to the brands. Therefore, it is necessary that Mexico improves new marketing strategies with the help of technology and its advances in order to have a better and a greater knowledge of this new consumer. Personalization. Investigation and research. The millennials are the people born between 1980 and 1995 that nowadays are between 22 and 37 years old, being at least a quarter of the average Mexican consumer rank. In order to get to know better the millennial generation, we have to know the main characteristics that identify them. Access to technology, digital natives, technology domination. Addicts to electronic devices feel the need for constant connectivity, and 45% admit that they could not be a single day without their smartphone. Multitasking, ability to do several things at once. Social, 88% of Latin American millennials have profiles in social networks. Consult, share, and comment on them. Critical and demanding. Demand personalization and new values. Expect the company to suit their preferences. Value participation and collaboration. Prefer sharing instead of owning. Scientific and technological tools in marketing. To achieve the personalization that the consumer wants, it is necessary to have a better and greater knowledge of him. Because of this, technologies have been created and or developed to read the mind of the consumer through the evaluation of stimuli. It calculates the intention of the purchase generated, strengths, weaknesses, and the impact that the evaluated stimulus achieves. Some examples of scientific and technological tools that help to understand the consumer are electroencephalography, functional magnetic resonance, magnetoencephalography, positron emission tomography, eye trackers, electromyography, and heart rate, among others. The information obtained with these technologies help to establish the appropriate message and form of communication that covers the conscious and unconscious expectations of the consumer to prefer the brand or product promoting. The interpretation is indispensable to be able to communicate with the consumer. Through this, we can generate communication strategies oriented to connect, attract, and retain the consumer. Variables and hypotheses. The dependent variables are greater, better, and deeper understanding of the consumer, personalization, improved quality of services, expansion of product offer. The independent variables are change the evolution of marketing strategies, use of technological tools, and neuromarketing. The hypotheses are if marketing combines their strategies with scientific and technological tools, then the brands will know the different new profiles of the Mexican consumer, what they want and what they need. If neuromarketing is applied in the new Mexican consumer, millennials, then the brands will have a deeper personalization towards the consumer. If the brand has a better understanding of the target consumer, then they will improve their services and expand their product offer. Methodology. Research for information about my role, using the resources of the digital library and other internet resources. 2. Check all the previous research and select the useful information. 3. Research about the problem and how it affects the society. 4. Research about the technological tool and how it can be implemented in order to improve and solve my problem. 5. In case there is information missing, research more about it. 6. Check the information and determine what is really useful to specify my work. 7. Synthesize the given information so it can be used. 8. Determine which are the independent variables and dependent ones. 9. Using the variables, determine which is the hypothesis. 10. Prove if the hypothesis is accepted or rejected. 11. Pass all sources into APA format. Data analysis. Neuromarketing. There is a big difference between what a person thinks he wants, what he really wants, and what he really needs. According to a study by the Carteret Institute of Marketing, 9 out of 10 brands fail because they use traditional methods of market research, focus groups, and surveys that only reveal the conscious arguments of a consumer when deciding on a particular product, or in other words, about what he thinks he knows or desires. Neuromarketing is the application of methods developed within the field of neuroscience in marketing. Neuromarketing brings together scientific and technological tools such as electroencephalography and brain mapping, along with the recording of physiological variables such as heart rate, muscle tone, and psychogalvanic response, the famous lie detector, to obtain a precise and mathematical calculation of the consumer's subconscious response. And all consumption processing is the key in decision making. That is why marketers have focused on studying it. Neuromarketing in Mexico. Talking about neuromarketing in Mexico is not still very common among companies nowadays, but it is true that it's taking force among marketers. In Mexico, there are already companies that are dedicated exclusively to offer their services in this area. Neuromarketing in Mexico can be an effective tool for those companies that want to get better results in their advertisements. In Mexico, there is a laboratory called Neuromarketing SADCB, registered with the National Council of Science and Technology, CONACYT, to develop neuromarketing studies, led by Dr. Jaime Romano Micha, Mexican doctor and researcher with more than 20 years of experience in the study and analysis of neuroscience. In 2005, Dr. Romano began a research project using his experience in the field of electroencephalography and clinical neurophysiology to understand the emotional processes, attention, memory, and decision making. What began as a scientific curiosity was transformed into a research laboratory of consumer behavior. Technology use. The most powerful technique applied by neuromarketing SADCB is electroencephalography, EEG, which focuses on the measurement of electrical activity of the brain. The coordinated activity of thousands of neurons produces potential differences in the scalp that can be recorded using electrodes in conjunction with the signal amplifiers. That is, by placing a series of electrodes spread over the head, we can get an idea of which areas of our brain is producing more activity. Model. The model used by neuromarketing SADCB is called the Neuropyramid of Romano. It's an innovative and avant-garde model that explains the sequence of mental events that take place since our organism receives a stimulus through our sense organs until it is made into action, buying behavior, passing through all stages of sensory, emotional, and cognitive processing. The pyramid consists in 6 steps, started from the bottom. Number 1. Attention. Number 2. Sensorial activation. Number 3. Emotion. Number 4. Cognition. Number 5. Action regulator. Number 6. Action. In this way, neuromarketing SADCB can contrast what people say about what they think and know how likely it is that their thoughts materialize in action. Clients. Some of the clients in Mexico of neuromarketing SADCB are Sant Regis, Telcel, Sabritas, PepsiCo, Pepsi, The Home Depot, H-E-B, CONACYT, Comercial Mexicana, Cinépolis, Bancomer, Banamex, Bimbo, among others. Results and conclusions. Now that we know a little bit more about marketing and neuromarketing in Mexico, as a result we can compare both of them, observing the differences, the similarities, the pros and cons, and which one should we use and why in order to know a consumer profile. Traditional marketing. Investigation of the interests and desires of the clients through a measuring instrument. It is deductive. Millionaire investments are made for a hunch, hoping to obtain profitability. It focuses on boosting the introduction of the product. It directs most of its efforts to advertising as a tool. It focuses on the commercialization of some product or service. Neuromarketing. The consumer does not know consciously what he wants to buy. Uses tools like electroencephalograms or eye tracking. Measures purchase commitment with excitation of brain waves. Seeks to get more attention and how and where to place a product. Also apply in tourism, government, politics, food, video games, etc. With this information, we can confirm our hypothesis. The combination of marketing and scientific and technological tools is an amazing and effective way to know and understand any consumer profile, especially the millennial one. Using proven and statistical processes, neuromarketing explores brain spaces that consumers are not aware of or cannot describe, generating data and conclusions of high value for brands/companies. Thanks to this new strategy, studying the human brain for marketing purposes can be more precise, true, effective, and unique to each person. Knowing the exact profile of each person is helpful for reaching a better market penetration, personalization, and with this, better service product and variety of product offer. The neuromarketing represents a new generation of methodologies to know the consumer. Neuromarketing SADCB. Mexico might just begin with the concept of neuromarketing, but the results and aid that gives to the companies is so effective that the world of marketing is changing to this tool, revolutionizing the world of commerce. Although the word neuromarketing is not widely heard in Mexico, it is very likely that within the next few years it will be a daily word for marketing professionals in Mexico. Sergio Monge Benito, Spanish teacher and communicator consultant. In this world of consumption, of sell and purchase, it's extremely important to please with what was called the future generation of consumers. Finally, if they are happy, the same brands will be happy to have persuade their main objective as consumer, and that this one is identified with a product or brand.